It's taken us 34 months to get to this stage, and again, we're very grateful for the support of yourself in regards to assisting us in taking back our responsibility of looking after our children, and this is the next step in that process. Again, on behalf of all Inuvialuit and especially our children, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. What a pleasure it is to be here, to be back here in Inuvik. Last time I was here in Inuvik, it was a few months before I became Prime Minister. And at that moment I made a commitment to you and to everyone that we were going to take reconciliation seriously, and that we were going to rebuild the partnership between Indigenous peoples and Canada, that we were going to invest in the kinds of things that were necessary to advance along the reconciliation journey, to recognize the pains and the terrible, terrible damage done in the past, and move forward in concrete ways. And children need to be at the heart of reconciliation, and the signing of this Child and Family Services Agreement with the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation really shows that next step over the next 10 years, over $500 million to make sure that kids get the proper support, not just to keep them safe, but to keep them grounded in language and identity, in traditional knowledge, in the confidence that they need to be fully proud of their identity and their future.
When we were going through the process and we heard the stories from our communities, from our elders, on how they would like to see this law make things better for them, because many of them shared stories of their children being taken away from them, and taken away from their hometown, from their region. And with the law, it still amazes me how those stories are all within the law. And very emotional times for the people that shared. And with this Reconciliation Day, this is even more meaningful to have it signed on this day. Part of our process is that we as Inuvialuit will develop the policies that will guide us in implementation. And that is so important because it's not coming from anybody else but the Inuvialuit. So I really appreciate, everything, the planning, everything, that we can finally sign this document.
As Minister of Health and Social Services, to be here today as an Inuvialuit woman to sign this agreement with IRC and Canada, it is an honor.
Our land, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
This is a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and it's a day not just here, but right across the country. People reflect on the journey of reconciliation, reflect on the difficult truths of the past, a truth like the fact that we are standing right now in a place that used to be a residential school, where kids were taken from their languages, taken from their communities, taken from their families. You were forced to think that their identity, their culture, their language wasn't worthy, wasn't worth learning, wasn't worth celebrating. Can you imagine that, being told not to be proud of who you are, not to be proud of your language, not to be proud of your grandparents and great-grandparents and the traditions that have made Inuit strong for millennia? But that's what residential schools were all about. And on this day of truth and reconciliation, we have to reflect on that past, understand that it's not just past, that survivors of residential schools are still among us, and that kids and grandkids are still impacted by their parents, their grandparents being in residential schools. It's It's not just about the past, it's about the present. It's about understanding that what we have to do as a country, everyone, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, is learn to respect and celebrate Indigenous cultures, language, stories, and learn to truly partner in protecting this land and building a future for everyone.
We've got it enacted now. We've just reached an agreement with the federal government and the territorial government for us to do the coordinating implementation of it. Previously, we're appreciative of the federal government allocating some funds to us early so that we could start to build up the capacity. We know we need to have the skills and the training. It's been worked out with both governments in regards to what level of capacity we would need. But now that we have the coordination agreement as well as the fiscal, we can start to enhance the capacity as well as building the infrastructure. So we'll be building our youth wellness centers. The Prime Minister's touched on different programs that already complement how we're trying to alleviate children getting into these situations where we have family life skill programs. We have different programs that are focused on all age groups, and not all of them are always just focused to Inuvialuit. They're provided to others that are in need of that as well. We have an on-the-land facility where it also accommodates families to try to build up that family bonding, the life skills with each other, because that's how it's been broken down with residential schools. Children were separated for years from their parents. And we need, and it's been lost, and you can see that in some of the generations where they haven't been able to properly develop the skills as parenting. And now we have that ability, and we're slowly starting to build up those programs, those services. We also have agreements with the Yukon territory as well as British Columbia and Ontario to share information if we have beneficiaries living within those areas. But we do realize that in some cases it's still in the best interest for that child, depending on their individual situation, that we might not be able to provide the adequate services and attention that they need. They would still be somewhere in the south getting that proper care.
What we heard from Inuvialuit, which we heard from communities right across the country, was the importance of protecting kids. We know that so much of the future goes through ensuring that young people have the opportunities, have the sense of identity, of self, of optimism, of pride that comes from language, traditional knowledge, learning from their elders about who they are and where they are going. That's why over the first years in our government, we worked closely with First Nations and Indigenous leaders, Inuit leaders right across the country to develop C-92, which was a bill focused on child and family services that would take kids out of the provincial and territorial systems and ensure that they could stay in their communities, stay in their culture, stay in their languages, even if they couldn't stay at home because they were at risk there. Not removing kids from their languages and cultures was a huge priority because to a certain extent it was a different version of the terrible mistake that Canada had made with residential schools, of removing kids from their language and their culture. So that's why moving forward on child and family services has been so important to us. We've now signed 11 agreements around child and family services. There's still a lot of work to do, and one of the things I'm really pleased with this one is that it did go with an agreement with the government of the Northwest Territories to be partners in this. And that's not something we see across the country. Indeed, there are provincial governments who are fighting the federal government's desire to give back control of kids at risk to communities and to Indigenous nations. That's something there's still work to do. So I'm hoping that this agreement is going to be able to be held up as part of the path forward and it's something that we are deeply committed to as a government. The most important thing, though, is that we are here to facilitate the leadership by and from the Inuvialuit to be able to determine what the right conditions, what the right steps, what the right process is as this gets developed over the coming years, always putting kids at the center, and this $530 million agreement will ensure just that.